As part of our Commitment 2016 coverage, WGAL is bringing you coverage of all the races that impact the Susquehanna Valley, from the presidential contest to local races. I'm joined now by the Republican candidates running for the 102nd Legislative District in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives. The district covers much of eastern Lebanon County outside the city. The candidates are from left to right: Tom Houts, the chairman of the Board of Supervisors in Jackson Township, and Russ Diamond, the incumbent for the 102nd District since 2015. Welcome to you both. Thanks for joining us. Why are you running against an incumbent?
Well, this is part of a career of lifetime service, giving back to the community. Before being chairman of the Board of Supervisors, I was actually mayor of Myerstown as well. So my contribution to the community goes back to the year 2000, and even a little bit beyond that, because prior to that I was a volunteer.
But in terms of an incumbent, do you think the job hasn't been done in Harrisburg?
I think that there's been some things with Mr. Diamond's incumbency that I disagree with, find somewhat appalling.
What's that?
Well, for example, when he was running for office, he kind of got in by a de facto vote. So he had the two other people on the Republican ticket removed from the ticket for technicalities. So Republicans in the 102 really never had an opportunity to vote.
All right. Do you think, how do you defend that,
Well,
Mr.
I disagree
Diamond?
with what Mr. Houts just said. We had two opponents in the Republican primary in 2014 who didn't follow the rules, didn't work hard enough to get themselves on the ballot legally. Pennsylvania law allows those challenges to be set, and a judge in a Commonwealth court ruled both of them were ineligible to run. In the fall, however, the Republican Party put up an independent candidate against me. I had three opponents in the fall, so Republicans had plenty of choices in 2014.
Mr. Diamond, do you think your treatment for alcoholism, as you said, you've been very public about it, has that affected your ability to legislate in any way?
Not at all. It's never impacted my job at all. You know, Susan, I'm one of millions of Americans who've been affected by the disease called alcoholism. I am very fortunate that I had a place in my life where I could get some intervention so that I could, take care of the problem that I had. And I have heard from so many people that my brother has the same problem, my dad had the same problem. I have heard from so many people and gotten some support from so many people. And I'm so grateful that I've been able to go 6 months now, even longer than 6 months now, since that incident happened. Haven't had a drink, and thank God that I've been able to get the help to get me through that disease.
All right, very good. Let's move on to Harrisburg. It's been a very contentious budget season, to say the least. What would you do to have more compromise, shall we say, in Harrisburg in terms of the budget?
Well, not only compromise, but I think we need some level of incentive for people to move forward on the deadline that is given, the June 30th deadline, to have the budget in place by June 30th. And by that, I mean that I think our legislators in Harrisburg should defer their paychecks once they've gone past that deadline. A lot of schools, services are suffering because they're not receiving their money, yet somehow we're able to pay our legislators.
Would you be willing to defer your salary until the budget's passed?
Absolutely not. What Tom said is absolutely stunning, because what he's saying, if you go over the last year, it took 9 months to get a budget in place. If Tom thinks only rich people should serve as legislators, that's a really radical idea. On the other hand, if he thinks that the governor should have the upper hand over legislators simply because they need to pay their bills, that's absolutely wrong. The governor is not our boss. We are a co-equal branch of government with the governor, and he needs to work with us. That's what needs to happen.
But the governor has said repeatedly that this budget doesn't balance, even the budget that has now been passed. How do you react to that?
There's a very easy solution to that, and that's to spend less money. And when the governor comes and works with a heavily dominant Republican legislature, he has to come back down to earth and realize that we are answering to our constituents who say, we want no more tax increases, we want less spending. We put a no tax increase budget on the governor's desk on June 30th. And frankly, he held out for 9 months and got less than what we offered him on June 30th.
What's your take on that? Do you think people do not, obviously no one wants tax increases, but is it possible to balance a budget without possibly having a tax increase?
I definitely agree that that's possible to balance a budget without a tax increase. I think there's a lot of bloat in Harrisburg that can be fixed, and I think, again, our legislators should be true leaders and look at themselves and look at the cost of living adjustment that they receive automatically every year, the per diems, the mileage allowances, Mr. Diamond got into office stating that he was against those things. He formed Clean Sweep, which removed a lot of incumbents that established and were taking those things, and he got into office and day one started taking them. I'm telling you that if I get into office on my first day, I'm going to write a check back to the Treasury and refuse that cost of living adjustment.
Mr. Diamond, you look stunned. Do you take the per diems?
I am stunned because Tom totally misunderstands and misrepresents what PA Clean Sweep was about. PA Clean Sweep was an opposition to a midterm pay raise that those same legislators took. What Tom's talking about is a COLA. Now, I have not taken a single COLA since I took office.
Have you taken the per diems?
I take per diems when I run out of town for committee meetings, if I go to Pittsburgh or Philadelphia for committee meetings. I think I've done that 3 or 4 times. I'm not eligible for per diems from my home in Harrisburg, or in Anvil. I live too close.
Too close.
But I am entitled to take mileage between my district office and my Harrisburg office. And if Tom thinks that we shouldn't be treated any different than the private sector does when they have to travel for work, then he's totally mistaken. We're entitled by to that by the Constitution.
But I disagree that you're entitled to have that money to drive to your daily place of work. To drive from Anvil to Harrisburg to do work is wrong, and that money has been
The
taken.
truth of the matter is my primary place of employment is North Lebanon Township. That's where I pay my local employment taxes. Driving between North Lebanon Township and Harrisburg, I am entitled to take mileage, just like someone in the private sector would be entitled to take mileage when they use their personal car to go between 2 places.
All right, just really quickly, because we're out of time, but pension reform, do you favor a 401k style plan?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely, 401k plan, and I don't take the pension in Harrisburg, and I think we need to have our public sector unions take some concessions so that we can repeal some of that unfunded liability.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. And remember, the Pennsylvania primary is April 26th, and keep up with the latest election news on WGAL.com. You can find more information about the other races that we're following that you'll only find online.